welcome, and if everything has gone according to plan, we are now looking at the Just Chatting stream of Level 1 Adventuring, that screen. Welcome back. It is a pleasure to have everyone here, as always. I am your host and Dungeon Master, Wolfe Scott. And Game Master or MC or whatever system we're running, I'm the person who is likely pointing people in different directions and telling them what to kill. I am the host of Level 1 Adventuring. What is Level 1 Adventuring if you are not familiar with our stream, our content? We are primarily a role-playing game stream, tabletop and digital. We play everything from large-scale group games like Dungeons & Dragons, which is our usual like Wednesday night group game, campaign ongoing. And then we also do smaller projects, more intimate projects, indie solo RPGs, which is more in the vein of what we're going to be doing tonight, and we'll get to that in a second. We also play some digital stuff too. We got a Celeste playthrough going on. Lots of content to watch if you're into story games or RPGs or all of the above. Check us out here if you haven't already given us a follow. And on all the other platforms too, all of our previous episodes go up on YouTube, so if you're behind or you want to catch up, that is all the place to be. Undercover, you said, am I late? No, you are right on time. I have just pushed past the intro screen, so you are perfect, my friend. I know, my intro sounds a lot like my outro, so I can understand the confusion. Yeah, follow us on all the socials. The YouTube's where we have all the previous episodes. Twitter's where we post all of our go lives. I will post homebrew content there for free for people sometimes. And the Discord is where we also talk about the games we're going to play, and we are building it to be a 5th edition play-by-post space. So lots of fun to be had there. Big shout out to... I'm trying to fix the mess that is my Skyrim mod list, Undercover says, ooh, and then Volans of Mood. Yeah, I mean, it's always a constant little tinkering job, isn't it, with that list. Big shout out to a lot of people tonight. All of our usual shout outs being Tabletop Audio for the music, StreamLabs, StreamSpell for all the digital elements, the AI Twitch bot, which helps entertain our guests. And that is all linked down below if you want to download any of those elements to give us a kickback. Thank you very much. But another big thank you that I want to give to the stream today is to the author of the game that we are going to play and the author of a game that we have played and are still currently playing. We have a playthrough running, and that is RPD of farirpgs. The stream in general has been a huge fan of RPD's works. If you're not familiar with what RPD has written that we've played, that is Firelights. So Last Wish, our very own Therapy Mantis, who has an official emoji in our emoji list for the love people have of Last Wish, has written this game called Tales of the Burned Stones, which is actually, and this is going to be like a lot of moving parts, Tales of the Burned Stones is a precursor to another game which I believe is on its way out. I don't think it's been released yet, called STONEBURNER. I could be wrong on that. But I love Mantis as Undercover. Yeah, we got to get some more official art for Last Wish then, because sort of like a bipedal mantis with a red cloak and a fire staff and a big heart is I guess what you would say Last Wish is. But yes, we're going to play an oncoming release. This is not out yet. RPD was very generous and allowed me to take a little sneak peek and get a little early access playthrough of this, so I definitely want to do it justice. And it is called Tales of the Burned Stones. All of the farirpg sites are linked in the Twitch chat and will also be linked to the YouTube. So if you want to check out any of the games that were previously played, like Firelights, or the games that are coming, like Tales of the Burned Stones, go there, check them out, download them. They're all very, very fun. But I guess that should lead us into what we are actually doing, right? Help, I got a Charlie horse. Well, how did that horse get in there, and how did he tell you his name was Charlie? Do you have Speak with Animals? Let me make sure that I can go into the solo stream or break. Okay, great. Yeah, that doesn't look like anything has broken yet. Go back into performance mode. And this is what we're going to be looking at here. Tales of the Burned Stones. A solo-friendly dark fantasy role-playing game. So this is actually, yes, get Beans fed. Beans is hungry. Hungry boy. Hungry boy, that Beans. This is Tales of the Burned Stones. It's a solo-friendly RPG, so what's nice about this release is not only can you be a nerd like me and play this all by yourself when all of your friends are too busy to hang out with you, but you can also play it with your friends when they aren't too busy to hang out with you. So you can play it in a group, you can play it by yourself, and the rules, as I've understood them, we're going to get into the rule set a little bit. I don't think I'm going to do a full read-through of the rules because they are much larger than some of the other rule sets we've read together, and also, if I'm not mistaken, Tales of the Burnstones is based off of a pre-existing engine which farirpgs has released called the Breathless system, right? So if you're familiar with Fari's designs, you're probably going to be familiar with that rule set already, but for the people who are new, I will do my best to, over-explain the rules once we get into them, but they are largely pretty loose. They're very narrative-focused. They're very fiction-forward, which is one of the reasons why I'm very attracted to it. The longer I play tabletop role-playing games, and the more I'm exposed to other properties outside of what I grew up with, like D&D, the more I fall in love with more narrative-heavy, fiction-first games, which has a nice balance of crunch and fluff, so there is that. A couple things I want to say about the game before we sort of start flipping through. So just some basic game information. So yes, the game runs on the Breathless, can't talk. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. Game runs on the Breathless system by farirpgs. A link here, link everywhere, link in the bio. I'm going to read the pitch here. And, we'll put on our best dramatic voice for it. Mount Baram groaned and shattered, birthing unfathomable tunnels spiraling deep into the unknown. From the abyss, shadows emerged. Countless hordes of monstrous, fire-spitting creatures laid waste to all in their path, reducing the realm that lay at the foot of its mountains to ashes. The remaining kingdoms now stand as mere shadows of their past selves. You are one of the remnants. The Sisters of the Eclipse found your lifeless body and brought you back. Waking up amongst the debris of the cataclysm, changed and indebted, you have turned to scouring the endless pits for treasures and stories buried deep within. So that's kind of like the loose setting, right? And you're going to see RPD has actually written some sections of the game where we exert some narrative control over these fundamental laws of the universe, right? And the game itself makes a lot of references to opening up your interpretation of the world and making it your own. So you'll see, I've tried to notate some areas where I've made like my influences, but this is the pitch as taken straight from, what is advertised about the game that's coming up in the summer, which we'll get to. So that is what we're going to be playing tonight. Major talking points, so as I mentioned, it's a Breathless game. It's the prequel to STONEBURNER, which is a sci-fantasy TTRPG about demon slaying and community building on a dwarven asteroid mine. So if you like dwarves, you like demons, you like space, you like fantasy, you like all those things like I do, you're going to really enjoy it. And what are the main talking points of STONEBURNER? It is free. Number one, we love free. Because, rent is a lot, turns out. It's open licensed, which is very exciting if you like these systems, if you like the idea of how this game plays, but you're interested in maybe tweaking it, changing some things, writing your own sort of story around how these puzzle pieces fit together. Hey, there you go. And it releases this summer, so you'll be able to play it very, 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 very soon. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the game inspirations, which were noted. Diablo, obviously we got some demon slaying, we have a tortured world, we're hunting for loot. Undercover says, I'm saving up for an apartment so I can't afford free. Free 99. I'll give you a discount. I'll give you a discount on the free for the low cost of super free. No, I know what you mean. Apartment hunting is the worst. I wish you all the luck. I hope you roll all the D20s on your realtor checks, because they're pretty rough. The Witcher. So this idea of, and we'll see a little bit more of the Witcher influence as we head forward, but, you know, we're monster hunters, we're demon slayers, all that kind of stuff. And this is actually one that I'm not familiar with. I should have looked at ahead of time. The Warded Man is actually one that I'm not too familiar with, so I'm gonna have to look that up, because that's one element of the inspirations, which I definitely have not seen as heavily. But so that's all the talking points about Stoneburner. Let's talk about Stoneburner, or not Stoneburner, Tales of the Burnstones proper. So I'm gonna scroll through some of the stuff we already talked about, so you can see some of the art in this book as well. The art is very minimalist, but it's very evocative in that the entire beginning of the rule book, it opens with this ongoing poem about the founding lore of the world. Essentially what we talked about, right? Mount Baram, the mountain has exploded, and creatures of the underworld have now pierced the veil, and everything is awful. But you get to see that played out in this very cool poem, in this very stark black and white imagery, which is very, very, very fun. I'm just getting everyone a little check a look at that. Oh, thank you, Rad Coyote. I appreciate the follow. Thank you for making that guitar solo whale. But now let's talk a little bit about where we come in, right? Where we talk about our world that we're creating and the adventure that we are going to go on. So this section right here actually gives you an idea of some of the founding principles of the world, and then allows you to make choices or substitute your own choices that help flesh out some of the broader concepts, right? And I actually wrote down all of mine in this OneNote under world building, so that's where I'm going to be reading from. And I also have some other notes here that we'll talk about as we play. But, number one, the Cataclysm struck. So the Cataclysm is the event, Mount Baram. In my mind, Mount Baram is a what's the word? It's a volcano. It's very, in my mind, and you'll see it in my inspirations I added, I'm very much playing into like the Mines of Moria, the dwarves dug too greedily and too deep. They've unleashed the Balrog sort of, you know, idea. So in my mind, the Cataclysm was some sort of catastrophic event that happened when predominantly dwarves dug too deep, right, and unleashed the hell spawn. Mount Baram erupted, spewing fire and smoke into the sky, and demonic influence into the world. And as that has happened, right, we get to choose how long ago that happened. So I said a few years ago, our past now fading into the unknown. So this is after the fire has taken the dwarf holds. The surface world, anything underground, the tunnels, have been completely forsaken and given up to demonic forces, right? Yo, this game is crazy. Can't wait to see the stream. Thank you, Fakin. I'm happy that you're here and happy you're watching. I hope you'll be intrigued by some of the ideas we're playing with. So yes, so in my mind, the lower tunnels of the world have all been enveloped and engulfed by fire and hellspawn, and the old dwarf kingdoms, or the dominion that lived underneath the surface, is pretty much we've tapped out. There's no way, right? Except for the Beans, my boy, just fed you. Beans is an endless hunger, an endless void that craves cookies and tacos. But the surface world, which is now being sort of terraformed by the demonic influence, right? It's I also took inspiration from like the Final Empire from Mistborn, right? The sky is constantly black. Thank you for the follow, Fakin. The sun is red. There's a constant rain of ash. The surface world is like a barren, desolate wasteland. All the flora and fauna has been terramorphed and mutated by the fiendish influence that has struck the world since Mount Baram exploded. So that's kind of our current world. And I actually have some images that all credit to the artist that I found on Pinterest, by the way. But I'm just using them as some, I don't own any of them, but I'm using them as some inspiration. So this is to give you an idea of like what I imagine our world looks like now. Here's like the under cities of the dwarves, which are all decrepit and overflowing with lava. Here's like Mount Baram, splintered and sundered. Here's like the world as we walk it, just like a cinderous waste of old stacked stones, right? So this is the dwarf holes, which I have named Ha's Unroll, right? And that's primarily where our story will be taking place, because I'm focusing on the dwarf lands. This is our given circumstances, right? This is where we travel. And it's been a pretty long time since the eruption has happened, so a lot has changed and the world is for the worse, right? So the Sisters of the Eclipse brought us back, but with a cost. So the Sisters of the Eclipse are sort of like an NPC faction, which has been described very loosely in the rules. We're given a lot of inkling as to, or I should say about where we want to steer their story. In my mind, the Sisters of the Eclipse, before the Cataclysm erupted, they were this cabal of, like, they were a doomsday cult, right? A lot of people thought they were witches, and they held them with fearful superstition, because all of the Sisters of the Eclipse talked about how the holds would be swallowed by darkness and fire, and it was all, you know, end of days kind of stuff. And everybody was like, all right, well, you know, you can like that and talk about that all you want, but we're going to hold you at like an arm's length, right? And then, of course, it turns out that all of their prophecies were true, and Mount Baram has erupted, and Hazun Roll is like a fiery hellscape. So the Sisters of the Eclipse, you know, have survived this doomsday event. And now they have started finding individuals, these remnants who we'll talk about, and resurrecting them for some unknown purpose, right? We'll get to that. So now they've gone from like this superstitious, like, oh, y'all sound like you're talking out of the side of your necks with this prophecy bullshit. And then the prophecy comes true, right? And now they're taking actions after the apocalypse has come that are serving them, right? So there's a lot of questions about, are the Sisters of the Eclipse benevolent? Are they malevolent? Did they cause this eruption? Are they just reacting out of what has happened? We don't know yet. We'll get there. But, oh yeah, play a little heist there. It's been a while since the stream has had a heist throwdown. And let's see here. Oh, but the effect of us, what happens when we were brought back by the Sisters of the Eclipse? So we cannot die, we are immortal, but we lose more of ourselves after each awakening, right? Our memories fade, our connection to the mortal realms loosens until we sort of become these hollow, empty shells of ourselves, and probably lose our faculties, probably lose our ability to interact with the world in any meaningful way. So we cannot die, but it is in our best interest to stay alive, because dying is pretty rough, right? On us. So now it says, changed forever, we possess strange new abilities. So in my mind, the remnants are being brought back for a very specific purpose, and that purpose is the demons, the hellspawn, the fiends, they now have influence over the world, and especially the caverns deep underneath Mount Baram. So we have been resurrected specifically to deal with them in whatever ways we can. So our bodies can withstand demonic flames and punishment for brief moments, which mechanically, we'll see how that works, right? I don't think there's a specific stated way that works in the rules, but essentially we are more resistant to demonic influence of hellfire. We can fight demons better than most people, and I'm sure that is very much to the sisters' delight. Feared and reviled by most, we are only a few, spread far and wide across the 5 kingdoms. So this is kind of where the Witcher influence comes in for me, right? Like, we are changed, and we are designed to fight demons more effectively and efficiently, but people they fear us. We have been resurrected by a cabal of witches, right? These doomsayers. And we are being guided by their actions to some unknown end. So people view us with a bit of disdain, a bit of confusion. Maybe some of us find hope and solace in us because we can do things for them. but I don't think they very much trust us, and perhaps we don't even really trust ourselves, given we haven't had much say in what has happened to us since we've died. The ashes, so the rain of ashes, right, that has happened ever since Mount Baram's eruption, they bring sickness upon most, but we can use it to brew, ... There is an inference in the rule set that we can brew potions, once again, very Witcher-like to help us fight demons, right? So I'm saying a potion that expands our perceptions beyond reality, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but this helps us fight the demons. We can see them even if they're not fully corporeal, if they are inside of someone, or if we need to like view a weakness in them, we can use this potion to help us have sight beyond sight, right? And then help us battle the demons more directly and more effectively. And then it says, with each drink of it, we relinquish a memory, right? And this says ... So I said, a fleeting moment of joy replaced by a desolate and hollow void. So once again, playing into this fact that if we die, we lose parts of ourselves. If we use the powers that we have been blessed with by the Sisters of the Eclipse, we lose pieces of ourselves. So we are even though we are immortal, we are essentially on a finite timeline. If we keep using our tools, if we keep dying in battle, eventually we are going to be a shell of our former selves. And that's sort of our great weight that we carry in the world today. And then I just wrote this like little fancy, little flavorful text. We are the remnants, the last of Mount Baram's blood. So then, yeah, I said the game inspiration here by Faria, and the inspiration I'm using for me, which is Moria and the Balrog, which I mentioned, the Final Empire by Mistborn, which I mentioned, and I'm also gonna borrow a couple elements from Dragon Age, specifically the Noble Dwarf origin story, which you'll see in a second, because I don't really play dwarf characters ever in any RPG. But Stoneburner is all about dwarves, and Tales of the Burned Stones is a precursor, so I want to play more into the dwarf storylines. So I very much enjoyed the dwarf origin story in Dragon Age when I play into that. And then I love the idea of the Legion of the Dead, where, they are sort of this army that is sent to die, and they're doomed to die, which I feel is very reminiscent of our story, so we have a bit of that going on. So let's talk about our hero, quote unquote our hero, and who we're going to be following, and we'll learn a little bit more about their powers as well. So once again, all credit to the artists. I own none of this, but I'm very impressed by the work, and they've inspired a brand new character in me. So this, my friends, is Duragrim Felldeep. That's our name of our remnant, Duragrim Felldeep. So Duragrim is an absolute unit of a man. He's just a box. He is a square. He is a square of muscle and sinew and hate. And we're gonna talk about the appearance a little bit. Obviously, this is not a one-to-one rendition, since this is art that's inspired me. But I do love the coloration. I want to talk a little bit about this like cobalt blue flesh. And I love the axe gun. During character creation, you're given the choice of either choosing a preset weapon or create a weapon, and so I decided to create a weapon, and I'm absolutely using the axe gun. Like, look at that thing. I'm imagining it's absolute unit, says Undercover. Oh, absolutely. And then Squidbone says PC looks hard. Exactly. That's what we want. We want this ice cold guy, which is going to be true in more ways than one, as we're going to talk about. So Duragrim Felldeep is a remnant. He was excuse me. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to use that one. I'm gonna have to use that one during an execution. Excuse me. Hey, Skyrim launched. Well, good that your mod list is fixed. Thumbs up on that. So in my mind, Duragrim was alive during the old days, right? He was alive during the peak of the height of the dwarven powers of Mount Baram, and was, in one point, a noble, right? Was highly respected amongst peers, a nobility, a figure of sorts. But there were a series of circumstances that befell him, which led to an unfortunate circumstance in his personal life, and then that was followed by the cataclysmic events that affected all of Hazundrol, which was the explosion of Mount Baram. So let's talk a little bit about that. Number one, his background, which you can roll for all of these. As you can see, as you go through the character creation process, we talked a little about the world building piece, more beautiful text. Also, this layout is very easily laid out, very wonderfully written, big ups to RPD. But you can see here, it gives you the ability to roll for, let me keep going. These are all discussions. You roll for things like your health, your heritage, your background. You roll for a lot of the stuff, or you can choose. A lot of this I chose because I knew I wanted to play a dwarf story, but a lot of the stats and stuff I did roll, and some of the more random things. So the ability to have nobility as a background is something that I rolled, right? And particularly the exiled noble, right? Which, here's my inspiration from Dragon Age, right? So, in my mind, Duragrim was once a well-respected member of his holds in Hazundrol, underneath the earth, right? I imagine the dwarves of this universe, in looking at the axe gun, right, are very keen inventors of both warfare and their ability to tunnel deeper into the earth. And so the axe gun is very much a dwarven invention, right? But unfortunately for Duragrim, he had a conniving brother, a noble who felt as though he had should have a bit more leverage and power, you know, within the holds underneath of Hazundrol, and played some tricksy political maneuvers to oust his brother from the seat of power and have him exiled to the surface, right? So his brother, Graklim, fell deep. The axe gun is crazy, reminds me of Bloodborne. Yeah, I mean, that's another good inspiration piece, Bloodborne. Hunters, supernatural stuff. I'll definitely keep that in mind, because that's actually a really good call-out. That might inspire some more stuff. Junji says, hey, Wolf. Hey, Junji, happy to have you here. It's been a while. You're just in time to hear about dwarves and axe guns. So Graklim fell deep was the reason for Duragrim's unfortunate exile, and he was sent to the surface and torn apart from his hold and his lands. This ended up being somewhat of a blessing on a long timeline, and we'll talk about that, but for now, in his life, his mortal life, that was a pretty rough thing to experience, right? However, when Mount Baram erupted, right, he's on the surface, Duragrim had a family, right? Duragrim had a wife and a daughter in Mount Baram who he was forbidden from seeing. So when Mount Baram erupted, Duragrim, you know, fueled by rage and wanting to protect his family, rushed as quickly as he could to Mount Baram to try to save them. But at this point there was chaos, the demons were pouring out, the undercities were already swollen and with hellspawn, and unfortunately he was swept away and slain in the ensuing madness, right? But because he was surface side and his body was not taken by molten fire or torn apart by demons or whatever shall have you, he was able to be recovered by the Sisters of the Eclipse and given a second chance, if you will, to exact vengeance upon the hellish forces which stole his family from him, right? So some characteristics about him which we did, once again, randomly roll. Well, not randomly roll, but we took a look at and made some choices. So the motivation is revenge, right? He is being fueled by the fact that he can now take chunks out of demons and get paid for it and essentially eke out some semblance of meaning out of his life now that the things that he loved are far and gone away. The virtue is that I love that weapon. Yeah, I saw it and I was like, what else are you gonna pick? Like, what else are you gonna pick? I was like looking like dwarven weapons, axe weapons, like trying to find something cool, and I was like, done. That's it. Into that. The virtue is that he's very resourceful. He's been alive for a long time, He was a noble of an inventive dwarven house. He has this very versatile weapon which he constantly tinkers with and improves. He's gained more abilities from the Sisters of the Eclipse. You know, he's learned a lot in his afterlife, and so he's very scrappy and he's very resourceful. But his flaw is that he's very moody. He's lost a lot. He didn't choose this fate, and I think there's very much parts of him that resent being brought back by the Sisters of the Eclipse, because who knows, maybe in the afterlife, maybe he could have rejoined with his family. He'll never know now because his soul is indebted to the Sisters, and so there's definitely a melancholy and a weight upon him that is pervasive, right? And then the past memento, and here's where the tears come in. So he wears, under his armor, he wears a golden locket, right? Now, the front of it is, like, carved, because in this world, I don't imagine there's, like, photographs, right? It's not like he has, like, a picture of his wife in there or his daughter, but I imagine it's, like, this golden locket, which is in the shape of, the fell deep crest. And then once you peel it open, the two sides have been carved to sort of look like effigies, like visages of his wife and his daughter, right? On one side and on the other. So on one side is the picture of Thrilrain, his wife, and on the other side is Throri, his daughter. So he wears that pendant around his neck underneath his armor. Underwears his armor, he will be. Speak like Yoda, I will. This is undercover. Here come the waterworks, exactly. So, with every step that every immortal cursed step that he takes, Duragrim is reminded of his loss of Thrilrain and Throri, his beloved family, which he could not save from the terrors of Mount Baram. So I guess the final thing we should talk about are just some stats and some things. One thing I did want to talk about, the lore building. So specifically things that I mentioned about the remnants, right? So number one, I really love this picture. I love the cobalt blue flesh. I'm pretty sure this is either a Pathfinder art or something like that of a Dwergar or a Duragar, the underdwarves, right? But I wanted like a more specific reason for the flesh to be grayish blue. So in my mind, the blue flesh is a symptom of being resurrected by the Sisters of the Eclipse, right? So if you see another blue dwarf with these black eyes that have these like piercing white irises, right? You see his like eyes have these like little beady glints underneath them. They're likely, I say likely, it's like 100% that they are resurrected by the Sisters of the Eclipse. Not only that, they are cold to the touch because they are dead, and might even emanate a slight aura of chill, so just being around them is kind of unnerving. I also imagine that, while everyone else has to walk in these constant ash storms, and maybe they have to like cover their faces with cloth or bandages or masks to keep safe, this does not affect the remnants. They use the ash for their potions, they breathe it freely. So if you're seeing a blue-fleshed person with like dead black and white eyes and they can just breathe ash, they're probably a resurrected Eclipse. We mentioned they brew potions, using the terramorphed world, plants of the world since the demons have arrived, and also Hellspawn parts. So let's carve up some demon parts. Let's get some ichor. And so then specifically what I wanted to say about the elixirs that they make that are pointed out in the lore is that I'm calling this a Farsight elixir. Ooh, magical. So when they drink the Farsight elixir, that little white pinprick of their eyes sort of grows and envelops their entire eye. So they become these glassy white opalescent orbs that sort of constantly churn with wisps of ghostly smoke, right? So the power is on. It allows them to perceive beyond the mortal plane, which we've talked about. Allows them to detect the presence of magic and magical beings. We've talked about that. But it also allows them to perceive time differently than other mortals, which essentially enhances their reaction speed, makes them able to fight better because everyone else, like, they can sort of see a couple moves into the future, very Mistborn, right? They kind of know where the attacks might go, so they can react before the enemy has a chance to fully land their blow. So Farsight is very useful, but remember, every time we drink it, we lose something. We lose a memory, which is going to be pretty painful, considering that we're, you know, everything we've already lost. And so yeah, in terms of skills, and that directly relates to one of our abilities called Brewer. So in this document, there are a ton of different classes that each have a small amount of abilities, but you're encouraged to invent your own or mix and match. These are kind of like guidelines. So I started with Alchemist because we are kind of playing with a Witcher influence. And so Brewer specifically states, when you try to achieve something out of the ordinary by drinking one of your own concoctions, you roll with an excellent position, which in this game is kind of like giving yourself a dice-based advantage, right? Which we'll talk about if we get into fights. So I wanted to give the Farsight elixir a tangible benefit mechanically, so I chose Alchemist is what you got here. Other than that, skills, this is how the game's skills work. You basically have 3 main stats: strength, dexterity, and willpower. Strength is what you imagine, you can hit stuff hard. Dex is what you can imagine, you can aim stuff well and be sneaky. Willpower is like your mind, your ability to resist influence, both mental and spiritual. Resilience is your health. You can roll this randomly. I chose to do the more heroic option. I rolled an average dice roll on it because I didn't want to be too powerful, but we are playing a solo game, so we want to have a bit more, you know, fight in us. And then your energy is kind of like your resources. You spend energy to use skills and abilities. As you can see, Brewer costs 1 energy, so you got to pay attention to that. Grit is like an extra little special stat. It's a little die. All of your stats are based off of dies, right? So you can see my strength is a d8, my dexterity is a d6, my willpower is a d4. I guess this is a good time to mention that you will need like your own set of like role-playing game die, right? All the way from d4 to d20 to play this game, even by yourself. But grit, while other stats can change, other stats can go up and down. Undercover says you found a baby lizard outside. Name him. Name. He's skitter. He's skitter. He go. He run. Grit is like, it's always a d12, which is pretty much the highest die you can have for most things. I think a d20 is only used for random tables. But you only get 1 grit dice per rest. So you can substitute it for like any check, but once it's gone till you rest. And then loot and journey dice you use when you're actually finding treasure or traveling across the land, and these dice will go down. The whole game system is pretty much runs around the idea that once you use a dice, that dice goes down. So my d8 strength, if I use it for a strength-based ability, will be a d6, then a d4. You can't go lower than a d4, right? But then you will need to rest to be able to reset your dice. So it kind of simulates you getting tired, you getting fatigued, you becoming breathless. Working in the branding of the game into the stream. We're firing on all cylinders. And that's how you know you kind of need to cool your jets, or else you're gonna put yourself in a bad spot. So that's all of our stats. We talk about our abilities. Our inventory is pretty empty right now. I rolled like awfully for my money. I literally rolled a 1, so I got the lowest amount of money you can have. So I have 100 gold. Let's hope we can make it stretch. And then our inventory, you have 5 inventory slots spread across both lasting and depletable items. Our axe gun is our basic weapon at a d6, and it is lasting. So yeah. That's Duragrem in a nutshell. And then, the final thing I should say is you start every session, rules is written, with a dream of glory. And so basically when you have a dream of glory, if you complete that during your session, you can cash in that dream that you've completed for some type of advancement, some sort of level up, something that increases your character's effectiveness and efficiency. Oh boy, my words. So I'm going with win a combat. We got an axe gun, right? Let's use it. Let's pop open some skulls and win a combat, and then we'll get a level up. So that's kind of my dream of glory right now. Duragrim. Get used to me saying Duragrim a lot, because I just like, I like saying it. It's Duragrim fell deep. He's a right madman. Alright, so I think right now, I already have some ideas for where the story will go. I rolled some tables early to seed some plot ideas, but what I didn't do is I did not decide how the story will begin, because that is part of the fun of a solo RPG is, you know, seeing where the dice take you, just allowing you to be swept up in the story. And so that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go to our main rulebook. I have both the main rulebook and the player's cheat sheet open to give us a lot of help, which I'm sure we'll need. This is my first Breathless game, by the way. I know RPD and farirpgs has released other Breathless games, so this is all new to me. I'm sure I'm going to mess it up. If you see anything that I do that is egregiously wrong, please call it out in chat so I can adjust for the next time. But I'm very excited because I do think the game is, I can wrap my head around it. I was reading it, it all made sense. But yeah, just know that going into this game. But what I like about the rulebook too, which is nothing I loved about Firelights, was they had these excellent little roll tables to help inspire the ideas of the scenes, right? Or the ideas of what are happening. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a location, right? Where are we starting our story? And I'm going to actually use my digital dice for this. So do we want to use, we're going to have to use, it says, well, we'll do, I wish I had a 1d3. All right, I'm going to say, it's either this table or this table, 1, 2, right? 2, okay, so it's this table. So we're gonna roll one adjective and one type. So we're gonna roll a d12 and a d12. So we have an 8 and an 11. It's an eerie hill, okay? An eerie hill, that makes sense. This place does kind of suck, all told. An eerie hill. And I'm also going to roll on the sparks table, which the sparks give us verbs. They give us like just words that are very evocative, right? So we're gonna roll a couple of these and see what it inspires in our story. So these are actually a 2d6 table. So I'm gonna go bump bump. So we have a 2 and a 4, a 2 and a 4. Our friends, interesting, an eerie hill with an eerie hill with friends. And I'm gonna roll this one more time. Bump bump. A 4 and a 5, a 4 and a 5. Attacking friends. Ooh, interesting. Maybe I guess we're gonna get that level up dream very early on, right? Eerie Hill attacking friends. Okay. Heal. the mod's yelling at me, but don't worry, I will allow it. This is Hillbilly Wolf. Well, yeah, that's a Duragrim's new accent. Well, now y'all didn't want to mess around with Duragrim fell deep, did you? He's a mighty fierce character, that Duragrim. Nah, Duragrim sounds like an ace. So why was that censored? I don't know. Sometimes our mod is like super sensitive. I have to look in our settings. But okay. So in my mind, what does Eerie Hill attacking friends mean to me? When I think of an Eerie Hill and this world, this cursed, flaming, desolate world, I'm seeing like we are marching with a group of companions, right? Now, the people here don't trust us. They don't like us. They don't like the remnants because we are children of the Sisters of the Eclipse. But we are useful to them because when we are with them, we more effectively hunt demons and monsters, right? Junji redeemed hydrate. Thank you very much. I will do just that. And so, I imagine that Duragrim, he's marching up the hill. He's leading the way. Every step feels like a weight tied to his ankle from from the harsh journeys and the even harsher memories. Duragrim, everything about him just echoes darkness and pain. And at his back, there are a couple of other dwarves. Likely, I imagine they're like scavengers, right? They are probably dwarves who make a habit of investigating ruins and old, dilapidated structures that were taken by the fire to hunt for dwarven relics and artifacts and gold, right, left behind after the collapse. And often these scavengers will parlay deals with remnants, because they know that if a remnant is with them, they're going to have an easier time fighting demons. They can use their elixirs to help them see secrets under the ruins and within the caverns, right? So they sort of have this very tentative working relationship where it's like, oh, yeah, if you want a cut of the gold, maybe you show us a way around, you know. And Duragrim, of course, at this point in Duragrim's afterlife, right? I think he has very begrudgingly accepted the role that he plays in this world. He doesn't have a choice, right? If the Sisters of the Eclipse aren't giving him a task, aren't giving him a mission, if they aren't speaking to him directly, what purpose does he have? And this is kind of a way where he can help people, right? It gives him an excuse to go to places which may be haunted by demons. But also it may help, you know, recover dwarven relics or artifacts from the time of the height of Hazundrol, which he lived through. So I imagine he reluctantly accepts these jobs, if even to reconnect him, you know, with the past to a certain degree. And so they're I imagine they actually have just what's the word? They have just finished a job, right? Duragrim and the Scavengers. They have recently gone to an old dwarven outpost because there was rumors of some treasure there, and the Scavengers and Duragrim fought off some minor hellspawn, nothing too... I mean, for a group that would not have a remnant with them, it would probably have been very dangerous or even deadly, but with Duragrim there, they made short work of the beasts, the hell beasts, and they managed to recover some treasure. Now, Duragrim doesn't mind... Duragrim says he'll often work for the gold, right? But what he's really there is for the artifacts. He wants to recover great things of Hazundrol's past, right? And so there are moments where when he finds something of significance, either to the history of the dwarf holds or like that is of sentimental value, right? Often he will deny scavengers from taking it. Right? He'll say, "You can take my cut, take my coin. I care not. But that is a piece of history. That is a piece of a time you do not know, and it is not yours to pawn. It is not yours to cut away into shiny pieces." You know, it's like a point of pride for him. He has to stand up for the people that he lost, and so I think it's to a point where they've left their last job, they're marching up this gray hill, and when I hear eerie in my mind, I think it is eerie because once they are at the top of it, they can look down, right? And it looks as though now they're overlooking the ruins which they've just left, right? And it is eerily quiet. There's ash slowly drifting from the sky. There's this sort of pale red hue cast across the ground because of the poisoned red sun, right? And Duragrim can look at this landscape, and in his mind's eye, he can see what the dwarf holds were when he was alive and the cities were alive, and he can, you know, he can hear the pounding of forge hammers and the shifting of stone and the shouts of street vendors and the smell of roasting boar, and you know, he remembers the glory, he remembers the days when his people were strong and united. But now he casts his black eyes upon this desolate, hollow collection of crumbling rocks. And, you know, you just can't help but feel like there are ghosts watching you at every angle. And perhaps there are. We don't know yet. But, you know, I think there's definitely a moment where Duragrim is standing atop this hill, looking down at this forlorn expanse, and suddenly something feels a little off. You know, the hairs, the white hairs on the back of his beard, I would say his neck, but it's, you know, he's a dwarf, it's cooler if you say beard, feel a little prickly. And that is when he turns his shoulder, and he can see that the other dwarves, the living dwarves, the dwarves that were born after the fall of Hazundrol, you know, they're all wearing their patchwork armors that are covered in soot and ash, and maybe a few burn marks now they fought with demons is practically falling apart. They're all held together with, like, half, you know, bludgeoned chain, and they all have either iron masks on or wraps around their faces to protect them from the ash. They've all sort of fanned out around him in this rather uncomfortable circle, right? He was leading the pack, and now that the moment his back was turned, they've begun to fan out around him in an almost strategic manner. And, you know, Duragrim sort of turns on his heel, you know, axe gun on his shoulder, taking a look left and right. Well, so much for compatriots in arms, aye. As, like, he, like, takes that cold stare across the rest of the dwarves. And you can see one of the other dwarves has their hands on, like, the hilt of a short sword on the belt and says, "Now, Duragrim, no reason to resort to violence just yet. Listen, we have a fair set of gold, but what you're carrying there," and he, like, nods down to, like, a leather satchel, which is bound upon Duragrim's waist, right? The artifact, or the relic that Duragrim refused to give up. Actually, let's get an idea of what that is. I'm interested. Let's get an idea of what Duragrim's holding. Let's do another random roll. So we have a 4 and a 6. We have a 4 and a 6. So an observe, interesting. Observe is an interesting verb. And then a 6 and a 2. Observing self-sacrifice. Interesting. Observe makes me think of, when I think of an artifact, I'm thinking almost like it's a highly reflective golden plate, you know? Almost like one would use, like, a scrying mirror, but chiseled across it is a scene of a great... Oh, you know, we talked about the Legion of the Dead inspiration, right, from Dragon Age. So perhaps it is, you know, this iconography, it's like this carving of a dwarven army which stood in great number against an enemy force, right? It's the reason why Hazundrol was able to claim the lands that they did, because they fought overwhelming odds and sacrificed countless numbers, right? Practically martyred themselves for the whole, but in so doing, secured a tremendous victory and allowed the dwarves to settle in the lands that they have, right? So I'm gonna say, so this relic is observe self-sacrifice. See, this is why I love these tables. They're just so, like, oh, they're just so, like, crunchy. They're just so tasty. You can do so much with them. So we're gonna say relic observe self-sacrifice. So this is a carved golden disc depicting a martyred... I don't know how to spell martyred. I'm gonna guess that's it. Dwarven army against an insurmountable foe, right? And these are stories that Duragrim would have grown up with, right? These are at the height of Hazundrol's existence. So this is like very important for him as like a warrior and like as once a nobility, right? As a person who would have been very invested in the history of the dwarven people. And so you can see this dwarven scavenger nods his head down at the satchel along his waist.
So, if you don't mind just handing that over, there's no need for blood to be spilled.
And then Duragrim with the axe gun on his shoulder.
My blood, or yours, friend.
And then you can see like some of the other dwarves. You know, they begin to shift their shoulders. They're feeling a little uneasy. They have him by number for sure, but he's a remnant. He is a very competent fighter. But that's a very pricey piece he's holding that could change their lives, essentially. And says,
neither, if you act wise.
And so Duragrim sort of nods slowly to himself.
I don't imagine you'll be parting ways with any of that coin I forsake to take this disc, would ye?
And to this, the scavenger sort of snickers and shrugs his shoulders.
It's nothing personal, friend. Just business. You led us there, we let you leave. We know you're tired. You done a great deal of fighting against those demon spawn. We take the coin, we take the disc. We let you go. Seems a fair enough deal, your life for a couple of coins.
And then Duragrim sort of like stares up with like an icy cold glare.
You greatly overestimate how much I value this cursed life.
And, you know, to that, I think everyone sort of stiffens, beginning to understand what he's willing to put on the line to keep this. So we're definitely at an impasse here. This is a moment where I think it could turn into a fight, but it could also turn into maybe we just scare him off, right? We don't know yet. And so Duragrim, let's take a look at our rules. This is the first time we're interacting with the rules, like during an actual scene. So we're gonna do we're not gonna do an oracle check. We want to do, just a regular check. So pick a skill or an item and then roll its die. If an ally helps you, they also make the check. We don't have an ally. All right, so we have to roll, and then depending on what we roll here in the rules will determine our choice. So positions. Oh yes, depends on what position we have. I would say we're kind of outnumbered. Let's see, I'm gonna ask the Oracle on this. There is an Oracle table that helps you make some decisions here. So I guess my question to the Oracle here is, do we have a lower hand here, right? Is this, are we truly at disadvantage? Are we weary enough that, and are they great enough in number that we would be at risk, truly at risk? So I'm gonna roll a d6. 4 is a yes, but okay. So we are outnumbered, but we do have a bad position. So I have to make a note of that. That's going to affect our rolls. So our position is bad. We are worse for wear. So we are tired. We're outnumbered. That's pretty rough. But what is the but? The but is that they definitely are fearful of us, I think, and I think the but is that we can talk them out. My cat just heard her food go. The answer is yes, but. Yes, but. Or, you know what we could do as well? We could see if the oracle, or not the oracle, but the spark table can give us one more bit of inspiration for what the but is. But says, also, Kato, yes, Piper, she was taking a nap over there. She's always napping when I'm on stream. But I will show Kato when I'll let her eat a little bit. She was so excited for her food to drop. She's a hungry girl. Ooh, solitude. Interesting. Yes, but solitude. So, okay, what do I see here? I see in this that the rest of the dwarf gang, they pretty much take the orders off of this guy who, solitude, right, soul. They take their orders off of this guy. This guy who's trying to shake us down for the artifact. And I think that if we can either talk him down or take him out, that the rest of them are going to be shaken enough that they give up the fight, right? That they aren't gonna want any of us, any piece of us. So that's our yes but. So let's do a check. So our position's a little bad. Our risk oracle here. So now we have to make a check. And then depending on our check will be... Oh, and we rolled... Did we roll the... I can't remember if we rolled for the... No, we didn't roll for the result yet. Just for the oracle. Alright, so what are we going to do? I say we're going to intimidate them. And so for intimidate, I'm going to say this is a show of strength. Obviously, we're trying to use our abilities as a fighter, as a remnant to scare off the fighters. So we have to take down our strength by 1, right, from a d6 to a d8. But we get to roll the d8 to affect our story, because it was a d8 once we started the check, right? So, I'm gonna roll this d8 and see what happens. Let's go. It's a 4. Okay, so we succeed, but there is a minor complication. Okay, so what is the minor complication? Oh my god, I'm so nervous right now. Okay, so there's also a table for complications that will give you some ideas of what can cause it to work. Loss of reputation. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing right here. If you were forceful, and then it gives you a bunch of options. Now, I'm seeing provoked someone, right? And also we noted before that it was the sole bad guy that we had to contend with. So I think our success with the complication is, says, yeah, you give us a thing, we'll let you go, right? But Duragrim looks across all of the scavengers and sees that they have no spine. And it is only this one guy who is trying to press him. And then Duragrim looks back at the central figure and sort of slings the axe gun into his hand. You hear the jingling of the metal as he settles himself into position. You may be willing to die for a handful of gold, but what about your friends here? And you can see some of the scavengers are beginning to shift their boot falls, or taking a step back. You're bold, and you might be quicker than me now, it's true. I've been marching a while, but if I swing hard enough and wild enough, I'll cut flesh on a few of you. And I imagine when I take a chunk out of you, that's the only chunk you'll have left. You might be willing to risk it, but they aren't, friend. And you can see at this point, all of the moment most badass. Thank you. Yes. And you can see that, at this point, all of the scavengers have taken, one wide step back, So it is only the main scavenger in front of us. And you can see maybe trying to prove himself now, trying to leverage his gang against Duergrim. You can see he takes out both short swords. You're gonna threaten me? Threaten me out here when you're all alone? I'll make you rue those words, Remnant. You're gonna wake up in a ditch. And like spins the blades into his hands, and is now going to like rush at us, right, to start this fight, to maybe win his gang's favor back, and to prove himself, right? So my yes, but I think we've outdone our bad position. We're no longer outnumbered. It's one-on-one with this guy. And I think our win there is that instead of fighting a group of enemies, we're mano-a-mano now, right? So now let's take a look at the enemies. I think we actually do have a stat block for a bandit. Yeah, we have a stat block for a bandit and a group of bandits, right? So hell yeah, we definitely talked ourselves out of a larger combat. That's fun. So, ooh, interesting. Bandit, group of bandit. All right, let's take a look at the, oh, what do I want? Oh, you know what I should do first before I do anything else? Let's put on slightly more dramatic music because we're gonna be in a little bit of a combat. Let's take a look at our, oh man, I'm excited to get this dream of glory done early on. We have our dreams of glory, we have our build as you play. Where's the combat section? Where's the combat section? I'll do a quick search for it. Also, I love a marked PDF. It's so good. Oh, do you see Piper now? She's going on her computer. Little baby Cato. You answering some emails, Piper? You're gonna send some tweets? Let everyone know to play Tales of the Burnstones by farirpgs. Okay. Alright, so she's the best. Look at her. Oh, she's folded up. Little bee. There is a specific way, turn order, yeah. So the player, character, or enemy initiating the conflict is the first one to act. So I'm gonna turn down my headphones a little bit because the battle music is suddenly more intense. There we go. That's much better. Player, character, or enemy initiating the conflict is the first one to act. Tuxedo Cat, I love it. I have a tuxedo. Oh, she's fat and needs to go on a diet. Piper, I think she's. Oh, hi, babe. You looking? Oh, give me snuggling. I think she's a healthy weight. She has to go to the vet soon. She needs some checkup, but she's a healthy weight. Despite the fact that I probably do give her a few more treats than I should, but she deserves it. So I think we're definitely saying that this scavenger is initiating the combat since, you know, shing, drew the blade and then rushed us. So we repeat the process until everyone has had their turn during the round. Okay, so we just trade back and forth, so then let's go back to the bestiary. Let's go back to this bandit, because the bandit does have an ability, right? Surprise strike. When attacking a surprise target, roll with a position. She looks really healthy. Mine looks like Garfield. Oh, good luck with combat. Yeah, thanks. I hopefully I won't need it too much, but we're gonna see. So when you do combat, enemies have energy as well. Bandit energy. I'm gonna say bandit stats, right? So they have resilience, they have strength, they have energy, 3. And then we have us. So Duergrim. Here we go. So I'm gonna say, yeah, why not start this off with a bang, right? They have 2 resilience and they have a d6. So I'm gonna say, even though we're technically not being attacked like from surprise, right? I think we can like narratively justify in the fiction that like I says, you're gonna wake up in a ditch, and then like as he's like rushing us, pulls, you know, a shady sort of bandit maneuver, and like takes his blade, When attacking a surprise target, roll with a good position. Yeah, so he has to cost an energy to do this, right? And we like brace ourselves. We like, oh, I imagine too the axe gun. Even though I know this isn't like really like blunderbuss, black powder world mechanics, like, but it's fantasy. We can go with it. I imagine it has a lever action because lever action is just way more badass. So you can sort of hear like the chunk chunk as we're like preparing the blunderbuss on the axe gun, and as we're like getting ready to wheel it down, there is a explosion of darkness in front of his hand. As you can see, what's the word? Dirt attacks, sand attacks, Pokemon style. Pocket sand, this is the word I was looking for. There's a handful of ash and sand and debris, right? Which the bandit always keeps close. Which is right towards our eyes. Duragrim is a little bit slower since he's been marching for a while. And that soot and that smoke explodes outward in front of him before he has time to lower the axe gun. And you can hear it as the eyes begin to sting and the bandit lurches forward with the blade drawn. So now the bandit attacks with their strength, which is a d6. So let's roll that. A 2. Okay. I'm not too worried about a 2. Oh, but he's attacking from a good position because of his roll. So he rolls actually one step higher. So instead of rolling a d6, he rolls a d8. Oh my goodness, which is an 8, which is far higher than a 2. Oh no, okay. So Bandit did good Bandit thing. Could have a knife at the end of the shaft. You could pretend to be winding up for a strike and then pull out the knife and strike it with a stealth opportunity attack. Ooh, that's fun. I like that too, Squidbone. Yeah, there's definitely a flash of steel and a flash of smoke as the bandit descends upon us. And we're like straining our eyes as we're seeing this like silver glint in the darkness. But that 8 is gonna be pretty brutal. So if I'm not mistaken, on an 8, they deal 3 hits worth of damage to us, and our resilience is 7. So 7 goes down to 6, 5, 4. Whew. Dang, we can't really take a lot of those, huh? We're fighting one bandit. All right, so their strength does not deplete, right? And I'm gonna say it from this moment on, unless the situation changes, we can't be easily surprised, right? He's gonna have to do a little work to surprise us. But during the beginning of the fight, we didn't know there was a little pocket sand moment, so we definitely did eat that, literally and figuratively. So let's take a look here. Their stats do not go down when they attack, except for the energy if they spend it. So has 2 out of 3 energy left, and the D6 strength. So, Duragrim. Duragrim, what is Duragrim gonna do, Duragrim? I'm probably gonna say that a lot. What is Duragrim gonna do, Duragrim? I apologize in advance for that terrible pun. So we can use our stats. We can also use items in place of our attacks as well, and we still have our grit. Do we want to use any of our resources? I don't think we should use our grit yet. This is just one bandit, unless things start getting like really dicey. But we are attacking from a bad position, which is roll twice and take the highest result, which I don't think we want. Actually, no, we're not in the bad position anymore because we got them, we depleted their numbers, so it's only 1-on-1. So, we're just gonna roll fairly. I think, let's just use the weapon die. Let's just start off simple enough. Let's go with, it's a D6, I believe. Oh, come on, roll high, roll high. Or don't roll high. Or don't roll high. That's not good. Okay, so a D6 is a 1 hit, which is not great. Although he only has 2 health. So really, that's not the worst. You know, it just means we might suffer 1 more blow in the interim of all this chaos. So yes, I think what happens is, you know, the smoke hits us. We raise our axe gun to try and defend as we see the flash of steel, but we were caught off guard. It was a bit, and our eyes are stinging. We feel a sharp pain in our shoulder as the blade sinks the tip into our flesh. We release a sort of yowl of pain, as the blade is pulled from us. And I don't think as we are, you know, in our undead state, in our remnant state, right? I think, like, it releases from us, but no blood comes out. Like, we're, like, hollow on the inside, right? Like it's almost strange, like this, it's not a squelch sound. It's not like a, you know, from the stab. It's like when you would pierce, like, a leather bag, you know? Like, just filled with, like, sawdust. Like, it's just, there's just this, like, this leathery echo of that pierces us, and we release a howl of pain, but that does give us a moment as they're retracting to take a wide swing of the axe gun through the smoke, and although we did not, as we so claimed earlier, take the only and last chunk that we would need out of this scavenger, we do manage to catch him in the ribs, right, as he is retracting, and there is a broad line that is cut through his tarnished leathers, right across the waist. And so we don't, like, disembowel, we don't eviscerate, right? But there is, like, a thin red line that has been cut across the flesh, which then belches out some, you know, red blood onto the stones below. And you can hear a sort of, as the bandit backs up, you know, and, like, sort of spins the blades in hand, beginning to breathe, and belabored, heavy breathing. You can see the bandits around who are sort of watching this all go down, all sort of gasp as they watch their leader take a near mortal blow. And now that the dust has settled, you know, at least his pocket sand dust has settled, we see that we have a chance to, we swing the blade, and then we hear, and we flip the axe gun into, like, an aimed position, like putting this bandit in the sight line of the iron sights of the axe gun. So we definitely do not have to worry about the what do you call it? The impaired vision anymore, and we now have a line of sight on this enemy. So then let's see. I think the bandit then, because we trade back and forth. Oh, it says I froze. I froze. Ought to be sure. Never mind. Oh yeah, it happens. It happens. Thank you for the notation though. Also, I didn't show it up before, but I'm wearing a little demon shirt for our demon slayers tonight. So I think the bandit now does kind of need to establish a better position. If he's going to win this fight, if he's going to steal the artifact from us, and he has 1 health left, he has to pretty much use the environment to his advantage, right? So we're going to see if he can get himself a better position. So he's going to use an action. Junji, you have that shirt? It's a good shirt. Although this one I bought from, like, this really weird kind of, like, off-brand place, so I don't like the material. It feels, like, very, like, strangely silky. But it's a good shirt, obviously. We love the reference. Alright, so yeah, he's going to try to change the battlefield. He's going to try to give himself an upper hand. So to do that, he has to make a check, which he will use a D6. And I wonder, does change the battlefield, does that work any differently for NPCs, or does it kind of just work the same as everybody? Let's see. Combat, abilities, attacks, abilities, challenges, change position. Maybe I should look at position. Everyone who rolled. So I guess you just have to see if you succeed on the check. Okay. So it's a D6, which is a 6. God, this guy's good. So the check result is... Oh god, I keep looking at the wrong thing. You greatly succeed. The higher the result, the better. So if we're fighting fair, he's gonna move his position up one, or I should say move our position down. So gonna move us into bad territory. Or does it move him into up territory? How would he use this? He's changing the battlefield. He's changing the position. Perhaps... We're on a hill. There's not a lot near us in terms of... Maybe... Ooh, I have an idea. Okay, so this is going to put us in a bad position. Our position is now bad. And why is the position bad? I'll tell you why the position is bad. The position is bad because he has to change the battlefield, right? To get... Pushes you toward a ledge. Ooh, that's fun. I actually like yours better, Squidbone, so we're gonna go with yours. We have the gun levied at him, right? The bandit, sort of like with like one blade in hand, and like staring us down. We're gonna say there's like a flash at his wrist, right? And there is a what do you call it? A throwing knife, which is released towards us. We parry the blade midair. But as we are parrying the blade, the bandit rushes up and plants his boot into our chest, right? Poof! And all the wind is knocked out of us for a moment. As Duergrim takes a bump, quick few steps back. And suddenly, as he puts his foot down to try and manage his positioning, he notices that he is now looking down on the ruins below, right? All the other bandits have given the battle a wide berth, and now the edge of Duergrim's boot is just hanging over the edge of this gray, rocky hillside, descending down into the charred skeletal remains of the town below. So yeah, I liked your suggestion. Thank you for giving me that. So now we have a bad position. Oh, and we have 4 health. Do we burn like maybe we burn like an ability. Maybe we burn a resource. When we catch our breath, do we get our grit back? I'm kind of tempted to use grit. Catch your breath. This resets all of your skills to their... Oh, I don't think grit is a skill. I think I have to rest to get my grit back. Yeah, okay. But, I mean, like, we're on the precipice of, like, a hill. So, like, maybe we... And he only has 1 health left. And we're already rolling from a bad position, which makes us roll twice and take the lowest result. Which could be very dangerous on a 12, right? Because that could be either a 1 or a 12, and that would be an absolute waste. So I don't think we use the grit yet. I think we do have to try and wrestle for a better position. Oh, I just realized that the Lost Mine is playing, not our scary music, our battle music. Let's get that back up. Okay, so... Oof, what do we do? I don't want to use grit if we're going to roll twice and take the lowest result, because that is going to be really uncool for us. So we have to kind of fight to get our position back. We can use an ability. When you try to achieve something out of the ordinary by drinking one of your own concoctions, roll with an excellent position, cost and energy. So that would bring us right back to excellent. 1 energy and not a grit to get excellent, which is roll twice, take the highest result. Enemy could be taunting you, which gives you time to catch your breath. That's true. You can do catch your breath in combat, which is a very cool mechanic that I don't have full knowledge of yet, because this is my first Breathless game, but that is a very cool idea. Although we've only used one die. We've only used our weapon die once. We're in a bad position. I think we either have to roll to get ourselves back in a fair position, because the grit penalty would be really rough, or we maybe use an ability to force us into an excellent position. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna use your idea, Squidbone, and I'm gonna mix it with mine, and we're gonna create a moment here together. So I have to go back to my quest. So I do have to make a note of or I should say my abilities here, because I need to make a note of my energy. So I'm down to 2 energy here. So what I think is going to happen is we are teetering on the edge of this hillside, right? And all of the bandits are, they're gasping, they're bracing their weapons. They're not sure if they should jump in or let it happen, or like who's gonna win. Their boss seems pretty wounded, but we are in a very dire strait. It could go either way. And at this point, this is when the bandit sort of just like levies the blade in our direction and says,
"You still have one last chance, Diragrim. Throw it over the disc, and you can walk away. We'll leave you be. There's no need to fall for something so stupid."
And like thank you for giving some cookies to Beans. He's a hungry boy. He needs to get strong to fight those dragons. You can see Duragrim sort of lowers his hand down towards his belt and begins to unfasten this, I want to say, it's not like a true potion bottle. It almost looks like a stone, like almost like an apothecarial tool, right? Because they're dwarves, so it's like made of stone, has like sigils engraved on it. It's bound in leather. You can't really see the contents of it. You could mistake it for maybe like a dwarven flask. I imagine that's what he probably does to like hide the intent of like his maneuvers, right? So you can see like Duragrim like reaches for the flask as like the bandit is like levying the blade in his direction.
"What's that? Having yourself one last drink before you die like a fool?"
As like they're leveraging the blade.
"Yes, drinking to a foolish death indeed,"
Duragrim says as he like tilts his head back and like drops the stone vial to the ground, and as that happens, you can see the whites. The bandits like snickering and smiling, feeling very overconfident in this moment. But those little pinpricks of white in Duragrim's eyes begin to expand and grow as a white film covers those dark, vacant holes in his skull, and white wisps puff out of either side as we guzzle a bit of our Farsight elixir. So now, and I believe using an ability is an action, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think I can immediately make a check right now, but combat abilities, yeah, each ability has an energy cost, so you use an ability. Dreams. Each ability has an energy cost. To use an ability, step down one or many skills matching the energy cost. You cannot step a skill down below D6. So, I'm gonna say it's dexterity, maybe, since like we're using it to enhance our perception. So, but how long does this ability last is the question. Because it just says when you try to achieve something out of the ordinary. So we're changing our battlefield. Does that mean like until the battle ends, right? Because we're using it to enhance the fight. I'm not sure. We'll play it by ear. We'll see. Oh, Squidbone, thank you for feeding Beans. Beans, you got a lot of gracious people here on stream tonight, making sure you're well fed. Okay. Ooh, getting a little hot though in my apartment. Ooh, spicy. Okay. Oh, I need to fix my AC. So, let us see here. So that was our thing. I think that is our action, which means now the bandit has to attack. But we are fighting from an excellent position now. Dude, Grim fell deep. Position excellent. So first things first, bandit is going to attack. If we're attacking, I wonder. This isn't how the skill is exactly worded, but I'm trying to think if I'm using this defensively, right? It gives me an excellent position, but inversely, because I can see him moving much slower than he normally would, that kind of means that he's attacking from a worse position, right? Maybe that's how I will interpret it for this moment. So that means he's going to attack with his D6, but if he's attacking from a worse position, he rolls twice and takes the lowest result, right? So he has to roll for a 3, which is still 2 hits, which means we are at 2 health. Boy. Alright, so, Duragrim, takes his drink. Now the bandit could be near the legend. You can use strength to kick him off. See, there you go. Now you're thinking with portals here, Squidbone. So the bandit rushes us, right? And our powers of perceptions are widened. Like, I imagine when we drink the Farsight elixir, there's sort of like a veil that casts over our vision. Normally the world is stained orange and red because of the fires and the red sun, right? It's like constantly this like orange wash. But when we drink the other sight potion, the Farsight potion, everything sort of has this like pallid, pale, bluish, gray, kind of similar to us, right? Where like we have this cobalt complexion. And like this white, wispy eye. It kind of lets us see into the spiritual realm, so probably everything moves a little slower, gets colder, gets paler, and we see the bandit like rushing at us, much more slowly. We're still on the edge of our toes here, so even if we can see him moving more quickly, we're already backpedaling. So we managed to move our axe gun sort of like in the right position as the blade rushes forward, and the top of our axe, clatters against the top of the blade, and we hear everything happen more slowly too, right? So you hear like metal on metal just screeching very slowly, and like sparks fly as we push the blade downward, but it still manages to lurch forward and take a stab like into our thigh. And there's another one of those hollow, leathery pops, that emanates like from our wound as the blade like tears through us. But that means that yes, the bandit is very, very close to us. And we might have the opportunity to finally put this bandit to rest. So, we have our potion going, and that means we can roll twice, take the highest result. I think if we're gonna try and maybe push him off the edge, we can use strength. So that's gonna be a D6, which is now lowered down to a D4. Hey, bud. Hey, Fleetwood. How you doing? Good to see you. Happy to have you here. We are in the middle of a combat with Duragrim Feldeep. Ooh, another thing I should check, too. So, resting, we get our grit back, but catching our breath, we don't. So maybe this is the moment where we spend our grit, right? Because we're going to get it back anyway, or we're going to have to rest because we have 2 health, right? So let's use it. Let's just go for broke. and we get to roll twice and take the highest result. So we're gonna go 1, 2. That is a 4 at the highest. So a 4 is 2 hits, which is all we need to finally finish off this. Oh, this nuisance. Oh, also, thank you for using our animated L1A emoji, Fleetwood. Using your benefits from being a subscriber to the channel. Squid Expo says, bam, exactly. So he rushes toward us. We push the blade downward, and as the blade is being pushed forward, we sort of like shift our weight around until we're grabbing, him by the armors, by the leathers, and we've switched our weight around. So now that we're on the front end of the hill, and he is now boots to the back of the stone, and we're holding him by the collar of the armor and just like letting him hang, right? Like back to the open chasm below. He's like the backs of his boots are trying to scramble back onto the stones as we are just like holding him aloft. His life is quite literally in our hands. If we would release our grip, he would tumble down into the depths below. But here's the question. Does Duragrim do it? I mean, at this point, we've proven to him that we can beat him. We've proven to the other bandits that he is not worth our time. Junji redeemed Hydrate. Thank you very much. I will do that, thank you. So yeah, I guess this is more of a question of morality for Duragrim. I mean, he's kind of our hero character, but he's also, kind of a rough dude. And his motivation is revenge. And his flaw is moody. So I feel like he might be prone to acts of passion. Maybe he doesn't, he's resourceful, he's scrappy, but perhaps he, is wont to give into his emotions. And so, we're holding him over the edge of the hill, and his boots are trying to clamber back onto solid ground, and he drops both of his blades, right? You see the steel begin to fall down from either side of the hill, and like begin to be swallowed up by the darkness as they careen down towards the ruins below. And his free hands now are desperately like clinging onto our wrists and trying to like grab our bracers and like pull himself up back onto the mountainside, and saying like, "Oh, Tudorgrim, come on. It's just a minor spot, just a little fight between scabbers. It's no hard blood. You can take the disc. You can take my cut. You can have whatever. Just don't let go, Duragrim. Just don't let go. I promise I'll never double cross ye again." And like Duragrim is just sort of staring cold, dark. Now his eyes are still lit with that wispy smoke, but holding him, and there was just no emotion written across that that stone cold face, and says, "Aye, you won't betray anyone ever again." And then like you can see like the fear widen in the bandit's eyes. No, Duragrim, no! And you can just see Duragrim releases, just like pushes forward and releases grip. No! Classic, is thrown over the side of the hill. You can hear all of the other bandits like gasp, and like some of them lurch forward almost instinctively as if to try and save him, but it is far too late. They are way too far back, as a most woeful defeat, says Junji, for the bandit. As you see the body get tossed over the side of the hill, fall down, you can hear the scream become less and less pervasive, just as the hillside swallows the sound. And you can watch as he is clawing at the air, but eventually the smoke and the ash swallows his body, and you don't even hear the eventual impact, right? Or if you do, it is the most faintest squelch and crunch down below. And you can see Durgrim just standing there, eyes down on the depths below, stoic. And you can see eventually the elixir leaves him, right? The darkness of his eyes, the wispy smoke eventually fades. The darkness of his eyes begins to cover over those ethereal orbs that were once his eyes. And he turns around, and immediately all the other bandits, like, they reflexively recoil, like, you know, like, expecting the worst to come to them, and says, "Any other of you feeling brave today?" As, like, the bandits all, like, are like, chittering and, like, and you know, trying to regain their composure. "Any more of you feel like you're entitled to a piece of history?" He says, he, like, pats the disc on the side of his belt. As you can see, the bandits, like, shaking, like, "No, I don't, not me." Sort of all, like, trading, you know, words amongst themselves. "Good. Now, you can take your coin, and you can take your sorry hides as far away as you can from my sight. If I even whiff one of your dirty mains back near me within a fortnight, I will split you from head to hair. You understand?" And, like, all the rest of them, like, "Oh, yeah, I understand. I wouldn't dream of it, Durgrim. Of course. All sort of, like, trading their scared platitudes between each other. "Good. Now turn around and march." And at that, they all, like, sort of, you know, tail between their legs, heads low. Their coin's still secured, but their leader I was gonna say displayed, but not displayed, disposed of. You can see their silhouettes begin to further themselves away across the gray wastes as they disappear into the Badlands, leaving Durgrim alone with the artifact, with the claim that he wanted from his old time. So excellent, we have succeeded on our first combat in Tales of the Burned Stones. Awesome. I love that for us. That was also one of our dreams of glory, or is it dream of glory? It was win a combat. So absolutely, I'm gonna mark that down. So that means we get a little stat increase, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. We want advancement, right? There we go. Advancements. Oh. Yep. It's like a million places. Okay, here we go. Squidbone says, "Nice, loving the storytelling. Thank you so much. Hey, this is what the channel is all about. So if you liked what you've seen here, there's more coming your way. There's the Firelights playthrough. There's the D&D playthrough. We got a lot of playthroughs running right now, actually. I should probably be more focused in finishing up like one, but we just have so much fun here. It's hard to just pick one, you know? Alright, so we've slain ourselves a bandit boss, and now we are going to roll an advancement die. A 7. Step up a weapon. Okay. I mean, hey, Axe Gun did some work. So if I go to Durgrim inventory, so the Axe Gun is usually a D6. So now we can make it a D8. Wonderful. I'm gonna sip my water here. Variety is the spice of life, says Squidbone. You're right. And that's why we are a variety stream at heart. Alright. So we scared off the bandit. Our advancement, we've got to upgrade our Axe Gun, which is pretty cool. And we'll talk a little bit about how that happens more narratively as we go on. So we only used... I don't think we actually used the Axe Gun for any of the checks. It was a strength check, which we stepped down, and a dexterity check. So the axe gun is still technically a D6 and now a D8, so that is good. Our resilience now, though, is a 2. Our energy is a 2, our grit is 0. Okay. So all of that being said, let's figure out what happens next. So we chase off the bandits, and Duragrim, I think at this point, you know, takes a knee because obviously the adrenaline was like rushing through his veins. But now the combat is ended with this very canny bandit warrior. He is now the worse for wear. There are 2 major puncture wounds in his flesh, and the unnatural connection he has over his remnant life. Excuse me. Ooh, feels a little fleeting. So he's definitely gonna need to rest. He's on this hillside. There's ruins below. He can definitely, I think, set up camp in probably the shelter of one of these nearby. You know, it's probably some watchtowers that were set up near one of the old ruins. He can probably set himself up a little campsite, get himself safe for the night. So, what I want to do here, I have to do a couple things. The first thing that I need to do is check a look at my resting rules. Skills, lasting items, loot die, and resilience back to their initial values. It also clears your grit and minor hindrances. So I get my grit back. Boom. I get my strength back. I get my dex back. And my resilience I get back. Perfect. Oh, and my energy too, right? I would assume. Skills, lasting items, loot die, and resilience. Huh, it doesn't mention energy. Unless energy is like a skill. Oh, no, energy, energy makes your skills go down, right, which I used for the dexterity. So once they go back up, then the energy costs. Oh, but wait. It still doesn't explain when I get it back. Because don't I always start with 3 energy? Questions I have. Ba, 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 ba. Take a look here. Take a look here. We got grit, position, resilience, energy. Or am I being silly and there's not an energy number? Maybe energy just has a cost? I think your energy would refill with a rest. I could be wrong though, that's how I've been playing. I thought at some point I'd written down that I had 3 energy, but maybe that's just enemies. And maybe your energy is as much as your skills have because you bump down your skills. Right? Maybe that's what it is. Fleetwood says, I saw that you do tarot. That's so cool. I recently got into it myself. Oh, excellent. Yeah, I got into it during the pandemic. It's been a while since I've been interacting with it more regularly. I've been pretty bad about my practice, I'll be honest. I'm going to get back into it. But I am planning, I did find a couple of rules on how to build D&D dungeons with tarot cards. So I was thinking about doing a series on that, which I think would be fun. Okay, yeah. That's how I'm gonna roll it. I'm gonna just put this back up, reset everybody's stats. Perfect. And I'm gonna put our chill music back on. Excellent. All right. Well, here's the deal. I want to keep going, but we're going on 2 hours. My stomach is giving me a little bit of it's a little mad at me. I might need to eat some food. So maybe I'll pause it here for now. We just got an advancement. Also, I'll be able to pick a Dream of Glory for the next session, right? But I would maybe like to have a good cliffhanger. So here's what I'll say. I'll say that Duragrim walks over to one of the old abandoned watchtowers, you know, battered and bruised, recollecting himself, makes a camp. And night is beginning to fall on Hazuntrol. And, you know, there's a small campfire that is, you know, happening. And in terms of, like, the stepping up their weapon advancement, you know, we can see Duragrim is perhaps carving some new runes into the blade of the axe gun, polishing the steel with some of the elixirs that he has been concocting with the ash, right? Whispering some words in an ancient tongue under his breath to increase the lethality of his axe gun. But as this is all happening, there's a sudden feeling on Duragrim that he is not alone, and that and it's not the feeling as though he's being hunted or he's being stalked. It is not the feeling of a bandit behind him. It is not even the piercing eyes of a hell beast. It is a far more familiar but just as unnerving gaze, as the firelight in the center of his camp begins to like flicker and shift and like roll down into like barely an ember. And you can see there's sort of this weary look on Duragrim's face as he knows what is to come. As a chill wind, an uncharacteristic chill wind, blows through his camp. And as he lifts his head at the edge of his vision, from just where the bit of the glow of the campsite, right, like gives way to the darkness of night, we can see 3 robed figures, hooded figures, in these like dark purplish blue vestments, and they're all wearing talismans around their neck that have these very these, I want to say, moon-like shapes, right? And you can almost feel the smile underneath their hoods with their hidden faces as they look up at Duragrim sitting at camp. And they all sort of talk at once, but also like filling in each other's sentences, right? As you hear, "Oh, Duragrim, did you really have to do that? And then like Duragrim just like shakes his head and like continues like grinding into his axe. "What? You mean the bandit? Another life lost. And for what?" As they all like titter and like chuckle amongst themselves. "I didn't want to take his life, but he made it hard for me not to. There's always a choice. And to this he like stares up like darkly at them. "Oh, is there? The life of a remnant? Is that something I've chosen, sisters?" And that is like when the 3 figures like move a little bit closer to the campfire, and they don't even walk, right? They just sort of like hover maybe like an inch above the ground, just the folds of their clothes draping against the black stones as they approach. As you can see, dwarven figures, dwarven like female visages from underneath the hoods, all sort of staring with like bemused smiles on their faces at Duragrim as he continues to just work on his weapon.
Duragrim, you are chosen for a reason. A good one at that. Good one.
And they all like begin to laugh, and Duragrim has heard their riddles and puzzles all before, and he's so tired of it. He's lived lifetimes listening to them poisonously insinuate into his ear Oh, what do I see in chat here? I love Tarot too. Oh, great. A few sets of my own. I've been recently ordered another deck. Awesome. Tarot user too. Oh, wow. There's so many Tarot users in our chat. I definitely have to do the D&D Tarot build then. I have to get an Oracle deck. It's always cool to see others use them. Yeah, I have a couple of Oracle decks myself. Actually, I have the D&D Tarot deck up here, which I'm saving for that stream. I'll save it. But, you know, he's so tired of, like, being a pawn, like a puppet, as he lifts his head. We both know why you're here. So why don't you spit what you have to spit and be done with it? As they all, like, sort of look between themselves with that same sort of, like... It is like this, like, half smile, but there's no joy in their eyes, right? They're just, like... It's almost like they themselves are being steered by, like, some sort of otherworldly force as they look back towards Duergrim.
We've found something, Duergrim, from the old days, and we will need you to recover it.
More trinkets, more treasures for you to squander.
No, Duergrim. Something of great power. Something of great magic. Carved by the old runesmiths. Something that could perhaps help us with what has become of Hazund Ro and the mount that has burned it. The demons that have stolen it.
And there is definitely a shift of emotion within Duergrim as he hears this, as he stares up, with sort of like a newfound determination behind his eyes as he sort of locks back the action on his axe gun, you know, like loading up the blunderbuss. I'm listening. And I think with that, I'll leave you on a little cliffhanger as the Sisters of the Eclipse, the very ones who have resurrected Duergrim for their own dark purposes, now claim that they have a special magical object in mind from the old world that they need Duergrim's help in securing. And I think that'll be a good time to end our little session here for now. It'll give me time to think of another dream of glory and set up some adventure seeds for our next meeting. But yeah, let me move over to our Just Chat. Thank you so much for everyone who came to watch tonight. We had some new faces. Squidbone, yes, we had some new followers. Bad Coyote and Fake Chuck, thank you so much. I appreciate all of your time and energy as always. Please, if you haven't already, if you liked what you saw, please consider following us, subbing to us if you're on YouTube. YouTube has just recently changed its partnership prerequisites, which means we're even closer to hitting those goals now, so please, we'd appreciate it. Follow us on all the socials, on the Twitter for our go lives. Oh, you were fake. Just changed your handle. I got you. Okay, I see you now. Yeah, follow us on all the platforms. That's where we post our go lives. Our Discord is where we'll play some role-playing games together very soon, which is exciting. Big thank you once again to Tabletop Audio, StreamLabs, StreamSpell, the AI chatbot for all of the wonderful tools you provide us. And if you want to use any of those tools for yourself, please look on our description below to leverage that and upgrade your own streams. We get a kickback. We appreciate that. Thank you for RPD and farirpgs for making Tales of the Burnstones, for giving us this sort of like early look and beginning to play. I'm definitely going to play this one through to its fruition because I want to use the dungeon generation program they have. So we're definitely going to get into a dungeon to do some delving and fighting some demons, obviously. Junji says, I'll be much more active now that I'm through college applications. Well, round of applause. Congratulations for you. College applications is a big deal, and we'll be happy to have more of you. We've been kind of slow anyway, so it's good that you're meeting up now. But yes, thank you so much for watching. RPD, if you watch this on YouTube later, I appreciate all of your writings. They're all wonderful. This is a great piece of work, and I can't wait to play more of it and find out what happens with Duragrim Feldeep in his sad, sad life, his sad, sorry life. But until then, I hope you all do well, and enjoy the rest of your nights, your weeks, your eves. I should be seeing you all tomorrow. Maybe I'll do more of this tomorrow. It's a solo night. We're not doing D&D tomorrow because we don't have the head count, so maybe I'll play more of this. Yeah, that'd be fun. And with that being said, rest well. I'll see you tomorrow, and keep adventuring, keep playing your games. I'm gonna roll a little outro, and I'll see you soon. All right, bye-bye.